Good morning, viewers. Today I am present before you with the novel of William Golding entitled Lord of the Flies. Today's podcast will be focusing on the world of Lord of the Flies. Before I begin the podcast, it is advisable that you keep a notebook and a pen so that you can jot down the important points relating to this particular topic. It is further advisable to use earplugs for listening to the podcast. So here I begin. As we read the words of a book, we become absorbed in their meanings and the actions they describe. Then we start to visualize the characters, what they look like, how they talk and behave. We begin to imagine what the setting looks like and the story begins to come alive for us. At this point, we have entered the world of words. We are taking the words on paper for real life. When our reading is interrupted, we suddenly leave this world the writer has created for us and return to our own. As we think about what we have read, we begin, almost unconsciously sometimes, to compare the world we know from our personal experiences with the world the writer has been able to suggest to us with his words. If we find the world of the book filled with people who do not talk or act in the ways we are used to in the real world, we may decide the characters are unbelievable. If, on the other hand, the characters even remotely resemble people we have known or read of, we say that they are realistic. Similarly, if the situations the characters are in are entirely beyond any experience we have ever heard of, we will probably find the plot unbelievable. But if the situations could occur, we will probably accept them as realistic. In Lord of the Flies, we can show that the characters are quite believable and that their experiences are at least possible. The boys talk like boys, they do not talk like heroes out of fairy tales. They are not impossibly brave, but only as brave as necessity makes them. They are no cleaner than boys can be when no soap is available. Their hair is shaggy, they like to play but don't like to work. They are not very responsible. Even the biggest of them is afraid of the dark. As their stay on the island lengthens, they tend to forget their old civilized ways until, in adapting to their new way of life, they slowly become savages. As for the plot, we know that a plane could not drop its passenger tube and land the boys safely because no such plane now exists. Nor is a worldwide atomic war in progress, but these factors do not make the plot unbelievable. We know that a third world war is possible. After all, there have been two already. Why could there not be a third? And we realize that in the future, passenger planes may very well be designed so that in case of trouble, a safety device such as Golding's passenger tube might be available. And certainly, we have no trouble believing that people can be marooned on uninhabited islands, for historically this has happened. So, if we recognize that the action of Lord of the Flies takes place in some future time, we are able to accept the basic situation as possible. The modern world of atomic power, supersonic airplanes, and the threat of war provides the background for Lord of the Flies. We should never lose sight of this world when reading the book, for the adventures on the island are intended to form a comparison with our world. The time of the story has been moved forward into the unknown future. The action takes place on a coral island in the South Seas. This island forms a tiny world in itself. So there is the world of the island, which is within the world the boys come from and return to, a world which is engaged in global warfare. And of course, there is the world that we know and against which we compare Lord of the Flies. At first glance, the island seems to be like a paradise. Fruit and flowers are growing together on the trees. No one has to work to eat, since all that is required is that the fruit be picked off the trees and eaten. But there are many indications that the island is not really a paradise. Unlike the Garden of Eden described in the Old Testament, or even the island Valentine described in the Coral Island, the fruit of Golding's Island is often green and green or ripe. It gives the boys diarrhea. They all suffer throughout the book from this complaint. Certainly, this is not very much like paradise. Also, we know that Golding's Island is torn at times by fierce tropical storms that uproot whole trees. Again, this does not seem like paradise, and the coconuts are described as skull-like. Skulls suggest death, and of course, there was no death in Eden. The island appears to be like a Garden of Eden, but look closer, and you discover that it is crawling with flies. Sharp thorns on the bushes tear the flesh. Rot and decay are everywhere visible. Powerful storms pour down sheets of rain for days at a time and tear up the beautiful scenery. The action ranges over three main areas of the island: the central section, low and covered with forest growth, a mountain at one end where the boys try to maintain a signal fire and where they see the beast, and at the other end of the island a grouping of coral rock connected by a narrow shelf to the main island. This last resembles a castle and is used toward the end of the book as a rude fortress. The island world of Lord of the Flies is shaped by two characters, Ralph and Jack, who represent opposing forces in the world of the book, as well as in the real world. Ralph's is the civilized world, centering in the safety of the seashore with its comfortable lagoon and its outpost in the mountain where a signal fire is maintained. Jack's is the hunter's world and becomes increasingly wild and savage. The forest and the far side of the island with its sheer cliffs, unknown to Ralph, are familiar to Jack. As he achieves power, the action shifts from the abandoned mountain top and the almost abandoned seashore to the rock fortress at the other end of the island. As we have indicated, Lord of the Flies is written in the form of a parable. That is, its characters and plot exist not just to make believable real-life situations, but also to form a commentary on the real world. When we see Ralph struggling to hold an orderly civil society together and Jack struggling to wrest power away from him, we are reminded that in the real world a battle is being waged constantly between democratic societies and dictatorships. Democratic societies hold to the belief that every man is entitled to personal freedom of thought and action, while dictators seek to establish the police state, a society wherein the individual is told that he is not important as an individual, but only as he contributes to making his country the most powerful on earth. By the end of Lord of the Flies, the boys have managed to destroy their world. It is no longer livable. The fires they have set have destroyed all the trees and all of the fruit. The pigs are either destroyed or will starve, since there is nothing left for them to eat. The island has been rendered barren. In contrast, the real world is very fertile, as we know, but we also realize that if the great nations of the earth ever were to engage in an atomic war, the population of the world would be largely destroyed. The survivors would probably die agonizing deaths of radiation poisoning. The earth itself would become barren, incapable of growth. Eventually, all life would cease to exist. Golding's parable is a grim warning of what mankind must guard against if the human race is to survive. So this was all about the world of Golding in the novel Lord of the Flies. I hope this podcast proved to be of help to each one of you. Please mention your observation and questions in the comment section below. Please do like, share and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click on the bell icon for latest update. Thank you for your valuable time. Here's wishing you a great day ahead.